What is going on, everybody? Welcome here to the Purple and Gold podcast. It has been a long time since I have made a video, and if I'm being completely transparent and completely honest with you guys, the reason why I haven't made a video in an extended period of time is because I took that loss to heart, guys. That game against the Rams was brutal. A complete beatdown, which we haven't seen from our team all year. Sure, we came out flat against Detroit the week before, but I was not expecting that against the Rams. I mean, we didn't look like a team who won 14 games. So that hit hard. It hit quickly, and I've been very unmotivated to make a video because that one was rough. And look, we're all Vikings fans here watching this, right? We go through this struggle, this pain, year after year after year. So this is nothing new. But the next loss always hurts the most. So that's where we stood at the end of the season. But a few months later, I'm back. I'm excited again for the season to come up because of what KWESI did in the free agent period. I'm still going to be critical of KWESI because in my eyes, the way that you build a true championship contending team is through the draft, right? This will give you a small window, not a sustainable one. And what I'm talking about is building your team through free agency. You win and you create extended success is what I was trying to say through the draft. Young players on small contracts. That's the way you do it. But again, despite the challenges that this front office has faced in the draft, they have done a great job of identifying talent through free agency from the moment that they got here. So we can't take that away from them. But I would like to see how Dallas Turner, how JJ McCarthy, and how the draft picks here in the 2025 draft class come out, because that's really going to be the determining factor on if this team can raise the Lombardi Trophy when it's all said and done under KWESI's tenure as GM. So let's take a look at what he's done this offseason because it has been exciting. We have had the best offseason of any team in the league. We are spending our money in all the places that Vikings fans have desired. And let's just hope it all works out because I think they brought in some really good players at really good price tags in the window that we are looking for with our top 10 pick quarterback, which we're going to get into that conversation a little bit more, on his rookie deal. This is the time to spend money, bank on the guy that you drafted to try and win the whole thing. I know that's crazy to say, Minnesota Vikings and win the whole thing, or Super Bowl or Lombardi in the same sentence, but I mean, it's real. I mean, this front office has done everything that they are supposed to do to set this team up to win the championship. Okay? That's the truth. I'm not saying that they are going to win. They are going to win. Sorry. Lost my voice there. But they have taken all the right steps to say, hey, we have filled almost every hole on this roster. There are still a couple of spots. We're not going to be naive to that. But they have done a great job of acquiring talent to where we can say, like, hey, in the spots that we need to be good or we needed to be better in, we are better heading into 2025. The beginning of, you could call it a new era in Vikings football because JJ McCarthy is going to be the quarterback heading into the 2025 season. So let's go move by move. Let's talk about the guys, okay, that aren't on the team anymore. Sam Darnold, that was one of the biggest decisions of the offseason, and I was getting really nervous because the Vikings were toying with the idea of bringing Sam Darnold back, but we all knew that it had to be at the right price point. They didn't hit that mark, and they let him go. Now, great for Sam Darnold because he has all the talent in the world. We knew that even before last season. We knew that when he was a rookie in that 2018 draft class, and he proved that he was a talented guy. I just think that when you have a quarterback that you draft and trade up for in the top 10, you have to trust this guy. Like, if you're drafting a quarterback, you have to believe this guy has the ability to take us to the Super Bowl and win it. Like, that's the whole purpose of drafting a quarterback. If you really believe that, and you really believe in everything that you've studied over the past few years on J.J. McCarthy, roll with the guy. And so I'm glad we're doing that, okay? There's a lot of people who are saying, well, we need a full rookie season under his belt where he gets reps and stuff like that. I trust this organization. And the fact of the matter is, all of us do. Because whatever we say does not dictate the moves that they make. They are making their own decisions in their own cloud. And I trust Kevin O'Connell. This is the 2024 Coach of the Year and a guy who has rejuvenated the career of Sam Darnold, made Kirk Cousins an extra, $40 million a year, $160 million total. And Josh Dobbs played the best football of his career in Minnesota and has been on 2 teams since. Got another contract this offseason. So my point is that J.J. McCarthy, in my eyes at least, is a talented quarterback. So I think it was the right decision to roll with him and not pay Sam Darnold the $33 million he got in Seattle. Cam Bynum, that was a tough one because everyone loves Cam Bynum. But he's a good player, not a great player. And we were going to be paying him like a great player if we got him back at the price that the Colts paid him. So another great move on their part. It's hard to let guys like that go, but the reality is you can't pay everyone, and Cam Bynum was just not worthy of the contract that he received, right? So it's tough. We're going to need a new dance coordinator, but it is what it is, which we're going to get into that. Actually, we can get into that safety position now. I'm a little nervous about this, okay, because I'm not a huge Theo Jackson believer, okay? I can lie to you guys and say I believe in all these things, but I'm going to keep it 100% honest. I am a little nervous about Theo Jackson because we haven't really seen him play. And in the times that he has played, he has had his moments, right? That game-sealing interception against Seattle, but there were other times where he just looks slow and the reaction time just needs to speed up a little bit. And I don't know if we just haven't seen enough of him yet. The staff seems to rave about him whenever they get the opportunity to speak about him. But this secondary as a whole just has a lot of question marks. I wouldn't be surprised if safety is one of the positions that this team emphasizes in the draft, which the draft is a whole different story, and there are endless possibilities. So that's going to be a discussion for another video. But Theo Jackson is, quote-unquote, the replacement for Cam Bynum at this time, and they got him for a relatively cheap deal. So financially, I'm not nervous. It's just this guy is penciled in as a starter right now, and we just have no idea. Then, the other move that we had to make in-house was Byron Murphy, which we are skipping a name here on the list, as you guys can see down, right over here. I forgot the camera was flipped. Byron Murphy, okay, and I know some of you guys might be a little disgruntled because, oh my God, why are we paying a cornerback that much money? Look, Byron Murphy, whether you agree with this or not, okay, he ran routes for receivers last year. He came up with some of the biggest turnovers of the season that literally helped us seal and win games, just flat out. Like, Byron Murphy, he's got a feel for what he's doing. And look, we talked about this in previous off seasons, maybe not on this specific channel, but as I scan YouTube and listen to other platforms, everyone is in agreement that Byron Murphy does not play his best football on the boundary, but in the slot, which is where he is which is where he has been built to play his entire offseason. It's just the scenarios that he has been in Arizona. He was the number 1 corner in Arizona when he really shouldn't have been. Okay, he was a 2nd-round pick. And then he comes to Minnesota, another place depleted of cornerback talent and depth, and is forced to play that number 1 corner spot again out on the boundary. This year, we added more guys like Shaq Griffin, Stephon Gilmore, who are not a part of the team anymore, but those guys were the primary outside corners. You had Murphy playing the slot, and he was putting up numbers. He's going to be in that position again this year, in my opinion. I'm not sure. That's not confirmed. But I would assume that Mekhi Blackmon's going to come out, be one of those boundary guys, along with Isaiah Rodgers, who just has a ridiculous amount of speed, who we'll get to in a little bit. Byron Murphy, okay, I don't know if you guys understand this. But creating as many turnovers as he had, I mean, there's going to be a lot of corners who enter the league that will never hit the numbers that he does. Yes, he gets targeted a lot, but he capitalizes on those opportunities. So I am more than happy to have Byron Murphy back. There are a lot of incentives in his contract, which is going to keep him hungry, hoping to reach those numbers again. But look, there's continuity with Brian Flores, okay? And if they just keep him in that same role that he had last year, I doubt he's going to put up the same numbers that he did last year because it was absurd, right? 7, 8 interceptions. That's hard to do. But I'm confident that he's going to be the same productive player that we got out of him last year. It was a slow start, but damn, did he really pick it up. And once he got comfortable in his position, he just made the most of it. This is the best cornerback that we've had on the Minnesota Vikings since Xavier Rhodes back in 2017. So I'm expecting big things from Byron Murphy. I understand why people might be nervous because it is hard to sustain the same production year to year as a corner, but I think Byron Murphy's got it. Okay? That's just my take on it. Speaking of Brian Flores, that might have been the biggest news of the offseason. Okay? Recency bias is huge, and I know it's flashy to get these players on our team, but Brian Flores has been crucial. I mean, I'm never going to forget, okay, that year in 2022 with Ed Donatel. That was the worst defense I had ever seen. And remember now, we just came off of a season where the Vikings finished 28th, 29th in the league in points per game on defense with Mike Zimmer. That was bad. And somehow Ed Donatel was the same exact thing. Okay? So having Brian Flores here, what he has done from the moment he has stepped in this building doesn't surprise anybody. But we all understand his impact on this team. And I thought that there was no way that we would retain him this year. Somebody was going to pick him up as a head coach because our defense was phenomenal, despite having little to no talent on the interior defensive line. We had Band-Aids at the cornerback position. Like, Brian Flores cooked it up again. Also, my camera, let's focus back again. Okay, we're locked in. Don't worry about that. This was huge. Brian Flores coming back to Minnesota is huge. And of course, there is a little bit of conflict because you do want Brian Flores to get another opportunity as a head coach. But at the same time, he is cooking up something really special here in Minnesota. And it's only going to get better with the additions that we just made on this defense. His defense continues to evolve, and it will keep doing the same thing. I'm expecting a little bit more man coverage than we've seen in recent years because we have slightly more talent and youth at the position. So we'll see. That is all just ideas that I'm throwing up in the air. I am by no means a football expert, but I think that's the vision here, which is why you draft a guy like Mekhi Blackman in the 3rd round last year, who was really good at man coverage at USC. And then you also bring in a guy like Isaiah Rodgers, who, you know, if you guys have seen the film, can stick with any receiver in the league because of his speed and is really good at tracking the ball in the air. So let's move on to the actual free agent signings here. That was just the in-house Minnesota Vikings things that we wanted to talk about. And I think everything that we could have hoped for happened. Okay? That's how I feel about this. You guys can leave your opinions in the comment section below. But I thought that they did a fantastic job. And it's hard to not pull the trigger and to pull the trigger on some of these moves. But they did all the right things. Will Fries. Whew. Boy. Okay, if it wasn't Trey Smith, which the way that Trey Smith got paid, we didn't want to give him that money. But Will Fries, okay? And the biggest thing, okay, no pun intended, because this dude is massive. Pause. 5-year deal. Okay? 5-year deal. We have our franchise guard. I know that's crazy to say franchise guard, but he is going to be our franchise guard. For the next 5 years, we are going to be set at that right guard position. Okay? Will Fries, absolute animal. And the thing that I love about him is that even though he is coming off an injury, like most of these guys are, this guy is always seeking contact in the trenches. He's always looking for someone to block. I can't tell you how many times, okay, we saw and this goes for all three of the guys along the line, Reisner, Bradbury, and Brendo. Okay? How many times chaos would just be going on in front of their face, and they're not touching anybody. They're not blocking anybody. And it's just a free rush to the quarterback. Like, this dude, Will Fries, does not want his quarterback to get hit. Okay? And I know that's literally their job, but I didn't get that same type of energy from those interior offensive linemen that we had last season. Like, this dude is looking to hit somebody in the jaw and make sure that his quarterback is upright. That's what I get from Will Fries. Great pass protector. I think he's a solid run blocker. This is going to be our guy, okay? And he has name value. His last name is Fries. This dude is literally just potatoes, man. And he's built like that. I'm excited for Will Fries. Seriously. We're going to talk about Ryan Kelly, but the fact that both of these guys came from the Colts, if you guys saw their interview on Vikings.com, like, these guys have chemistry. These guys enjoy playing together. Oh my God, I am so excited. How long has it been since the Vikings have had a legit interior offensive line? I can't say that they ever have in the time that I've been watching, and I've been a fan since 2013. I understand how good Steve Hutchinson was, right, in the Hall of Fame, but he had a short stint here with the Vikings. Like, this guy, Will Fries, is going to be here for a long time, and I am expecting this guy to be an extremely productive player. I am so excited to have him for the long term. Huge signing. We absolutely needed this. I'm glad the Vikings front office finally decided to put an emphasis on the interior offensive line because, and the formula has been the same from the beginning of time, okay? Build through the trenches. And that's not just to say bring in whoever. Like, oh yeah, if you address the offensive line, whoever you bring in, great job on addressing it. No, bring in talented guys, okay? Remember now, the Packers just overpaid Aaron Banks. And we got Will Fries. I'm telling you right now, okay, and you can call me biased or whatever you want, we got the better guard, and we have the better contract. We're doing it right here, okay? Will Fries is an absolute animal. Jonathan Allen, I'm not going to lie. This signing here makes me more nervous than any of the other signings because Jonathan Allen has been on a decline the past few seasons. Now, he's not going to be asked to be the guy. I think that's Javon Hargrave, okay? Even though they didn't sign him first, I think Hargrave is a better player. And it makes me nervous because Jonathan Allen, okay, at least according to PFF, isn't the greatest run stopper. And I watched a ton of highlights of Jonathan Allen. He is primarily a pass rusher, which is what we're lacking, okay? I'm not saying this is a bad signing. I'm just saying the production has gone down over the years, and he's not as disruptive in the run game as he is in the passing game. That is true, okay? Take everything that you see on PFF lightly, especially the grades, okay? But it's true. Like, he isn't the greatest run defender, but what I will say is that I think that KWESI, Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, they are all banking on Brian Flores, okay? Because we've seen guys like Jerry Tillery, Jonathan Bullard, Harrison Phillips, like, they've had their moments. These guys are going to have more than just a handful of moments. These guys are talented enough where they're going to make some big-time plays. And I think that this scheme is going to help elevate their play in the run game. These guys are already polished pass rushers. This is exactly what we need. Jonathan Allen is a significant signing to this team. I'm just concerned that if injuries continue to riddle his career, the back end of his career at least, and he continues to dip in production, like, what player are we getting? Right? Massive question mark there, in my opinion, with Jonathan Allen. I'm excited for the signing, don't get me wrong, because we know what Jonathan Allen can be. But can he get to that form again is what I'm talking about, because the numbers at the same time don't lie statistically. So if we can get him back on the come up, which is very doable for the defensive tackle position, we'll see. Sky's the limit, seriously. I mean, if he plays at the Pro Bowl level he was at a handful of years ago in Washington, we're going to have the best defensive line in the league. Javon Hargrave. I've been calling him Javon Hargrave since he entered the league, and it's Javon Hargrave. Awesome signing. 49ers are clearing house right now because they have decided to throw money at players like Brandon Ayuk and Diamador Lenore, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, who they really only got one good year out of. Like, it's hard to not pay those players, but at the same time, this is what happens when it doesn't work out. And you do choose to pay everyone, which is why I made such an emphasis at the beginning of the video that it's important to be confident enough to know when to not pull the trigger on certain players. Regardless, we got a good one in Javon Hargrave. This is one of the best interior pass rushers in all of football, and that is not an understatement. The name might have gone under the radar this year for the casual fan because he was hurt for the duration of the season. But boy, this guy, I mean, he's played in a 3-4 defense in Pittsburgh, dominated. Got a bag in Philadelphia in a 4-3 scheme, dominated. Transition to the 49ers, dominated. Ended up being a Pro Bowler there. He's going to be good. Javon Hargrave is going to be an absolute beast. And when you look across this defensive line now, okay, Harrison Phillips, I think, is only going to get better. His snap count is going to go down. He's going to be more energized on a play-to-play basis when he's out on the field. And we can use these guys more schematically, and we can put them in more favorable situations, right? Harrison Phillips, Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard, Dallas Turner. Teams should be scared. What an exciting offseason. And we're not done yet. We're not done yet. That's the thing, okay? Not even halfway there. Ryan Kelly, okay? And let's get back in focus here. My camera right now is getting nervous. Like, this is what other teams are going to see. You see how my face is a little blurry right now? And I think it's because of my microphone that's keeping this out of focus. That's probably what it is. Teams are going to just start getting blurry vision on the offensive line, right? They're going to see these guys and their vision's going to get hazy. Be like, damn, am I really seeing what I'm seeing across the line? Hell yeah. You're seeing Hargrave, Allen, Phillips, Grenard, and Van Ginkel. Wouldn't want that to be my job. Anyway, Ryan Kelly. Okay, another animal. Ryan Kelly has been solid from the moment that the Colts drafted him out of Alabama. I believe it was back in 2016. Guy's a beast. Ryan Kelly's a beast. And this is another guy who didn't get picked up instantly, didn't get a huge bag because of his injuries that he has dealt with. But, I mean, this dude doesn't let the quarterback get touched. This dude is awesome. Ryan Kelly has been great. I always thought that it was the most criminal thing because there were some Maddens where, like, he was a normal or they had him as, like, a low-rated star. And I know it's Madden. They don't know what the hell they're doing at EA Sports. But that was disrespectful. I always thought that was disrespectful. I've signed Ryan Kelly in free agency in the past doing my Vikings franchises. And to have him here on the team now as a reality is awesome, okay? There couldn't have been a better center for this team to go out and get. I know a lot of people are like, oh no, but Drew Dahlman was out. Bro, Drew Dahlman is overrated, okay? And we've had my friend Dylan, who's an Atlanta Falcons fan, on the channel before. I spoke to him about it, and the first thing he told me was Drew Dahlman got overpaid. Like, he is not that good. And I was in agreement with him because I thought that prior to him telling me that, and he only reaffirmed my opinion on that. Dahlman is an all-right run blocker. He's an all-right pass protector. The Bears overpaid for an average center, okay? Like, that was like, oh, this guy's top of the market because of his age and because of, you know, what they've been able to do in the run game there in Atlanta. I'll eat my words on this. He did not look that great, and he looks undersized too. Ryan Kelly is another one of those beef and potatoes guy, hits you in the mouth. No one's getting to my quarterback. And I'm not just saying that. The numbers prove it too. This guy does not let the quarterback get hit. And this is going to be a huge, huge upgrade over Garrett Bradbury, which, thank God. I mean, how many years have we gone saying, is this the year that we move on from Bradbury? Are they going to let Bradbury walk? And it's finally here, guys. I never thought it would happen. But he is no longer our center. I would tell Garrett Bradbury thank you for what he has done for this team, but there's nothing to thank him for because he was crap. Anyway, so now we get to more of these depth signings here. Right, those are the big ones. And, like, look at this. Ryan Kelly, line. Javon Hargrave, on the line. Jonathan Allen, on the line. Will Fries, on the line. We addressed the trenches. I can't tell you how long I have been waiting to say that for the Minnesota Vikings, and I never thought I would. But this team is addressing the trenches. And even last year, with Van Ginkel, Grenard, Turner, right? This team is making an emphasis on improving both of the lines because they are understanding that that is the way you have to build your teams in order to win. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? Their line isn't great, but I remember that they were in the middle of their dynasty when they went out and drafted Trey Smith. They drafted Creed Humphrey, and those two guys are massive hits. They signed Joe Thuney in that offseason, right? They decided to re-sign Chris Jones instead of bringing back the younger and just off an all-pro season, L'Jarius Sneed. No, they said, even though Chris Jones is 6 years older, we are going to keep the guy in the trenches. Like, that is the way to do it, guys. Okay? Build through the trenches, the lines. It dictates the entire game. You have a good front on the defensive side that can rush the passer from every angle, can stuff the run. It does so much and opens up so many more possibilities for a defense. It allows you to play more man coverage. It allows you to, if you want to, play more zone coverage. Have guys sit back and just wait for a duck to come out, which happens more times than not. And on the offensive side, it's equally the same. You can run the ball. Play action opens up even more because teams are worried because they can't stop the run. Your quarterback has all the time in the world to throw. The game is won and lost through the trenches. Why do you think in the origins of football they didn't pass it and all they did was run the ball? Was because that's how you win right there. If your front is beating the other team's front, you're going to win. That is why they just ran the ball, because it was the most conservative thing to do. And if you had a good line, it was the most effective thing to do. And yes, we have transitioned to a passing league, but at the same time, look at what just happened. Look at what just happened. Saquon Barkley changed that team. And how did he do it? Well, yes, his God-given ability and talent, but because that offensive line has been crazy good for the last 5 years. That's never been a mystery. Why do you think the Lions, okay, I don't want to give credit to the Lions, but why do you think the Lions have been able to turn around their franchise? Look at that offensive line. Okay? I don't think I need to do much more convincing to anybody else, but just in case I needed to, the blueprint has been the blueprint since the first game of football ever got played. Anyway, these depth signings are as equally as important because even though you don't want anything to happen, you never know what can happen, and you need guys to step up. Tavier Thomas is going to be a depth guy, okay? And he's been well-traveled around the league, right? Just spent time in Tampa Bay, also spent time in Houston, and he's been a solid piece. He's had his moments coming up with some big interceptions. So I like this signing, especially in a depleted cornerback room with how much turnover we had and how many question marks we still have. This is the first year in the system for Isaiah Rodgers. Mekhi Blackman is coming off of an ACL injury. Dwight McGlothern barely has any snaps under his belt and came in as an undrafted free agent last year. This is a great depth signing for the Vikings. Justin School. This is going to be a big signing because Darrisaw, the timetable for when he comes back, still unknown. This guy got a decent amount of play last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's going to be important that we have a guy who is somewhat experienced, right, but can also swing around the offensive line and be backup for many of these positions, which he does have guard and tackle flexibility. So that's going to be huge. It's going to be important for him. This is honestly one of the more underrated signings. I'm not trying to prop this up. I'm not trying to make it bigger than it is. But this is huge because we're not going to have a Cam Robinson again like we did last year, which was huge for us in the middle of the season. This is a guy who is a backup, is brought in to back up both of our tackles, but has to be penciled in as a starter due to injury circumstances. So, Justin School, this is a big moment for you. And if he plays well, I mean, this could be another opportunity for him to get paid. Details on the contract are yet to be released, as you can see here, where it still says $0, 0 years even on top of it. I'm expecting this to be a 1-year deal. But again, just in school, close to skull, name value, but is going to be huge. Eric Wilson, former Viking, coming back. He's a solid rotational linebacker, right? Not expecting him to come in to be the starter. We have our 2 starting linebackers, and great special teamer as well, right? And that's huge. I mean, you need guys who can play special teams, because sometimes those are the plays that end up flipping. I mean, we know that. Okay, Blair Walsh, yada yada. Okay, anyway, special teams is important. Eric Wilson, great signing. I was sad when he left us because he was trending upwards. But yeah, he's played his way back into Minnesota. Happy to have him back. Jeff Okudah, guy with a lot of upside and just hasn't really lived up to it. I think he had his best year back in Atlanta, but struggled as a Detroit Lion, struggled recently as a Houston Texan. And we're not expecting this guy to come in and be the starter, but he can definitely compete to be the starter because, look, at the end of the day, he is one of the best Ohio State cornerbacks that the school has ever had, and he was the number 3 overall pick for a reason. He has definitely shown flashes, as I mentioned, with a solid tenure in Atlanta. So I think that there's potential there, but I wouldn't bank on it. But good competition, good depth for the room. Texans fans don't love him. I get it. But again, we're not asking this guy to carry the load. We just need him to be serviceable, almost like a Fabian Moreau. You know, if he needs to come in, you know, don't be a liability. Just be good enough to say, hey, we're fine putting you out here for a game or 2. It's just good to have depth like that on the team. Isaiah Rodgers. You want to talk about underrated signings, right? I talked about Justin School, but Isaiah Rodgers, this is an underrated one. I mean, this is a guy who is a great special teamer in terms of being a returner, which I would expect him to play that role here in Minnesota, and is a great cornerback. Like, he was solid in Philadelphia. He's been solid in Indianapolis, had that gambling issue, right? Isaiah Rodgers, I think, he's going to be good. He's going to be good. So I'm excited for this one. Again, you can never be too confident of a guy who was not a full-time starter, right, this past season for Philadelphia, but he's around the football, he makes plays, and he's going to keep up with, he's going to go toe-to-toe with literally anybody in the league in terms of speed. That is not a question. So I believe this came out to be like a 2-year, $16 million deal, if I'm not mistaken. I know the numbers aren't on the screen, according to Spot Rack, but man, Isaiah Rodgers, this could be a sneaky good one. You know that Brian Flores has been dying to play more man coverage and just hasn't been able to do it because of the lack of speed, the lack of talent at the cornerback position since he arrived in Minnesota. This could be a guy that we got at a bargain price. So I am very happy about this signing, and it happened quickly too. So you know that they were like, hey, we feel like some other teams might have their eye on Isaiah Rodgers. We got to get him quickly. So there was clearly an emphasis to get him on the building. This is a guy that I think multiple people were standing on the table for in the Vikings organization. Tim Jones comes in here from Jacksonville. I think, okay, they did not bring him in to be, you know, a key piece on the offense. This is, I think, is a special teams guy. I believe was a former captain in Jacksonville as well. I could be mistaken on that. Don't take my word for that. Point is, trying to build a culture here. This guy is primarily for special teams. I think that this is like our Trent Sherfield from last year. And I guess maybe they didn't get everything that they wanted out of Trent, so they brought Tim in instead. But yeah, nothing more to say than that. And Rondale Moore was the most recent signing. He did take a visit with the Bears as well and ultimately decided to go with the Minnesota Vikings. Not sure how I feel about this. Me personally, I'm a fan of a receiver with a bigger frame that just makes it easier on the quarterback. And I know Rondale Moore hasn't been in a great situation, okay? His time in Arizona was full of mediocrity. Okay, not from him personally, but the coaching staffs that he was with, right, with Cliff Kingsbury as the head coach, better offensive coordinator than head coach. And now they're with Drew Stanton. Jesus, Jonathan Gannon. Wow, Drew Stanton, is that a pull? Jonathan Gannon, like, he's not doing anything inspiring there. Kyler Murray is the most overrated quarterback in the league. I've been saying that since day one. This dude is overrated. It's not a hot take anymore. It was at one point, but Kyler Murray's trash. Rondale Moore is going to get an opportunity here to be the wide receiver 3. We're not going to be asking him to do much, all right, because the ball is going to a lot of other places. Jefferson, Addison, Hockenson, you guys know the team. Rondale Moore just needs to be serviceable, and he has a real opportunity to beat out Jalen Nailor for that wide receiver 3 spot, which shows the emphasis that the Vikings want another target, a more reliable one, because Nailor had his fair share of drops, and it was more of the plays getting him open than he was creating separation on his own. I think that's going to be the biggest separator, no pun intended, between Rondale Moore and Jalen Nailor, is that I think Rondale Moore has the talent to create plays, whereas I can't say the same for Jalen Nailor. So there's that. And finally, the last acquisition that's not on the screen here is Jordan Mason. This was a huge signing. Now, I watched his interview, and I'm a little, because, he's clearly not one to give great answers in the interviews. That's for sure. But, I think Matthew Collier from Purple Insider asked him if he does any studying on any running backs, particularly Aaron Jones, and he said, I'd be lying to you guys if I said that I study other running backs, which I probably should be doing. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, he's good, he's productive, but I don't want this to be the place where he gets a wake-up call and he's like, damn, maybe I should be studying other things. Like, that makes me a little nervous. Nonetheless, Jordan Mason, I'm excited about because we got him for nothing. Like, the reality is we got him for nothing. And this is a great RB2. Now, what I'm thinking is that the Vikings, they know how good this running back class is. And I wouldn't rule out them drafting a running back. It can still happen despite having these two guys, because how much longer is Aaron Jones going to be here? I'm not sure. Do they feel comfortable with Jordan Mason being the number 1 guy after this season's over? Who knows? They could still draft a running back. So I wouldn't get too panicked out about that. I mean, we gave up nothing to get Jordan Mason, a guy who was literally a top 5 rusher, top 3 rusher in the league at one point before Christian McCaffrey came back. Like, Jordan Mason was that good. Okay, say what you want about the 49ers scheme. If you watch the film, this guy is a quick cutter, finds the gaps, seeks contact, beats contact. He doesn't have breakaway speed, but this guy is great. I mean, we saw it firsthand when the Vikings played the 49ers last season. This dude is hard to bring down. And it's going to be a great complementary 1-2 punch between Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. So I'm so excited to have Jordan Mason as a member of this team. But again, like, the Vikings don't have a ton of draft capital as it is. Okay, there's no guarantee. Like, a lot of people are saying, oh, we'll just trade back. What if no one wants to trade up? Like, there's a lot of things you have to consider. And with as little draft picks as they have and still some needs on the table, I think safety is still a need. I think cornerback could possibly still be a need. Like, we need to make sure that we have the picks available, and you don't want to just spend one on a running back when you don't have to. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, even if they didn't have Jordan Mason, you still have Aaron Jones, right? And if you were to bring in a running back at this stage, you have 3 reliable running backs. You would hope, at least, with whoever they draft in the room, and that's better than 2. So anyway, a lot to talk about in terms of the draft. But guys, what would we grade this offseason? I'm going to give this an A offseason in terms of the free agency period. Like, again, we somehow kept Brian Flores on the roster. On the staff. We kept Brian Flores on the staff, and we built in the trenches. Like, again, there's not a whole lot of needs left. Like, we would need a starter at corner. Like, if you were really to address it in the draft, like, how many guys are actually going to be starters at corner if we draft one? Not sure, to be honest. It really just depends on how the guys in the current roster are playing in spring. And safety, like, We're lucky Harrison Smith came back. Who knows how Theo Jackson's going to play? So that secondary is really the biggest question mark of them. Oh, and quarterback, of course. Okay, I'm not... J.J. McCarthy, I think, is going to be okay. Like, we don't have to worry about him. Clearly, I am invested in the quarterback as much as the team is. But you're not going to draft a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, and they already said no to Aaron Rodgers, which is huge. Like, imagine the boost of confidence that J.J. McCarthy got. Because I think McCarthy understands, like, this is a 4-time MVP. They're going to consider it. They'd be stupid not to. And for them to say, no, we don't want Aaron Rodgers, a guy who has tormented this franchise for decades, and we're going to go with you, boy, they were doing all the right things for J.J. McCarthy, mentally, physically, for him to come back and be that guy. So I'm going to give this an A for the offseason. Like I said, we built the trenches. We kept one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. We got a lot of depth pieces I'm excited about. We got a lot of guys for good value. Oh boy, this is exciting. There are going to be mock draft videos for this team that I come out with in the future. I'm excited to see what the direction of this team is. I'm optimistic for this season, as we always should be. It's an exciting time to be a Minnesota Vikings fan, okay? And look, the reality of it is like I said at the beginning of the video, they're building this thing the right way, okay? They are building and setting things up and have set things up for this to be a championship caliber team. First things first, we need to see a playoff win under Kevin O'Connell. And I know that it's kind of been a quarterback carousel since he's come in here. But this team is more than capable of doing it. And that's the next step. Okay? And if it's going to take baby steps to ultimately end up where we want to go, so be it. Whatever it takes to win that Super Bowl, let's do it. And I think that this team is taking all the right steps to hopefully one day lead into that direction. But guys, I mean, I hope I can look back on this video one day and just smile as I'm watching it. But when that day comes, let's not fear it. Let's just embrace it. I believe it's going to happen at some point, okay? And that could just be pure delusion or just putting complete faith into it, going into it blindly. But that's what faith is. Believing without any evidence, without seeing it. I believe. Okay? I never thought that this day would come, that we would address the trenches, but here we are. So I'm always going to be faithful. I'm always going to be optimistic. I'm always going to believe. I just hope that it doesn't hurt me when it's all said and done. So yeah, this has been a full free agency review of the Minnesota Vikings here in 2025. KWESI cooked for a second year in a row, expecting them to be as good as the free agents that we brought in last year's class, expecting a really exciting season, but there is still a lot of work that needs to be done in the draft. And as I mentioned before, we will talk about the draft a whole lot. But until then, thank you guys for watching. This is the Purple and Gold Podcast, and until then, I will see you guys all later. Peace.